Our first speaker today is Peter Dawkins. Peter is a philosopher, an author, a teacher, visionary, geomancer, and one of the founding trustees of Gatekeeper Trust back in 1983. We are delighted that he's joining us to talk about the British landscape Zodiac, which is the foundation for much of Gatekeeper's work, but especially today going into tomorrow. As I said earlier, we always dedicate our activities, whether out on pilgrimage or at events like these. So I'd like to invite Peter to do that now and then to move into his talk.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Mike. And hello, everybody, and welcome to you all to this Gatekeeper weekend, very special weekend celebrating the 40th anniversary. So I've been kindly asked to light the candle before I start off with my first talk. And so here's my candle and a lovely lotus cup. So I light this candle and I dedicate it to bringing light into the landscape. Now, bringing light into the landscape is such an important theme, really. And there are different ways to understand what light itself actually is. But in this talk, I hope to convey something of the importance of the great landscape zodiac of Britain, the landscape zodiac I've been researching for a very long time now, more than 40 years, and found it was known by previous people. So in this talk, I hope to convey something about all this and how it was known and used from ancient times, how it is one of the three great chakras of the British Isles, how we can help make it spin and shine with light or delight, and how it affects not only the other two great landscape zodiacs of the British Isles, which are Scotland and Ireland, but also the whole world. Now, the word zodiac is actually a Greek name, and it means wheel of life, which is a wheel of energy. Life is energy. And the Sanskrit word for the same thing is chakra. Hence, the zodiac is a chakra. Now, I mention this because many of you may not realize this. But when we talk about zodiacs, we're also talking about chakras in the landscape. Now, energy is defined as movement, and understood correctly, this is emotion, emotion, a word derived from the Latin ex movere, meaning move out from. And the best energy is the energy of love, and this is the life force par excellence. And it is this energy that fills the universe. Hence the saying, all is love. But there are different degrees or manifestations of energy. And the vibrating energy of love is known as the divine wisdom or word of God. And this vibrating energy takes on form as geometrical patterns and structures. And it is the divine intelligence, the mind of God, that gives it form. And the word God, which I'm using, the word God actually means love. For as the Orphic and Christian teachings tell us, God is love, or love is God. Hence, the mind of God is a loving mind or intelligence. The vibrating energy patterns and structures of the mind of God underlie all forms of spiritual and natural life. The spiritual forms are composed of ideal geometry and mathematics. Mathematics is geometry and number, really, to give the scientific name. And the natural mortal forms are imperfect expressions of the ideal that are striving to reach the ideal perfection. In other words, they are evolving and to us appear as the real, but ever-changing patterns of geometry and proportion. Zodiacs, or chakras, are energy centers that form at the intersections of the energy lines that make up the energy structures. When suitably energized, chakras, or zodiacs, become spinning vortices of vital energy, hence the metaphorical idea of spinning wheels. When energized with love, they radiate and shine with light. And zodiacs exist, or chakras exist, in the energy structures of all forms of life, great and small, including the world and its landscape. And for instance, in the human body, there are 3 ultra major chakras, 7 major chakras, 21 minor chakras, and 80 to 86 micro chakras. Now, chakras or zodiacs in the landscape that are linked together in a meaningful pattern or series, for instance 3 or 7, are what I call landscape temples. They are equivalent to man-made temples, but created by nature, by God, by love. In fact, a good architect simply imitates nature when designing a temple. And when done well, it becomes possible to marry the two, the natural and the man-made, and hence with the spiritual design as well. And this is the great art and great work. This is the marriage of heaven and earth. And Europe and the British Isles are examples of this, believe it or not. I'm going to share my screen now. So we'll start with this slide about Europe, a map of Europe. Now, Europe derives its name from the classical myth of Europa and the bull, wherein Europa is the British Isles and mainland Europe is the bull. And the bull is the god Zeus incarnate in a symbolic natural form. And Europa is a goddess incarnate in a human form, according to the myth. And the myth, which is an allegory, describes this as a story in human terms. But the landscape also portrays this story, for every great myth is also about the landscape and what human beings do within the landscape. Now, humans act out the myth as actors on the stage of the world, which stage is the landscape. And just as the stage of a theatre is set up appropriately to suit the story of the play, so also does the landscape suit the myth. And this sort of play acting is known as a mystery. All the good, great myths describe landscapes and the role each landscape plays in the world. Moreover, just as humans affect landscapes, so landscapes affect humans. And the landscape is vitally important to us humans, as it is our foundation, our support. Indeed, it is the foundation and support of all natural forms of life, upon which we and other life forms depend. Without the land and its landscape, we could not exist in this world. Have you ever thought about that? Now, the British Isles are classically known as the Blessed Isles of the West. And they were also known to the ancients as the land of the Hesperides, wherein grow the orchards of golden apples, which Merlin happily munches. And according to classical and Atlantean mythology, the Hesperides, who were also known as the Pleiades, are the daughters of Atlas, numbering either 3 or 7 sisters. And Atlas rescued them from the great flood by raising them up on his mighty neck and shoulders. Now, in landscape terms, Atlas is mainland Europe, who bears his daughters, the Hesperides or Pleiades, on his mighty neck and shoulders. Atlas is equivalent to Zeus, incarnate as the bull, who rises out of the Black Sea and flies above the Mediterranean Sea. And the Hesperides or Pleiades are equivalent to Europa, the triple goddess incarnate. Now in the sky, the constellation of Taurus is the bull, with the Pleiades star cluster on his neck. I'm pointing to the bull here, and there's the Pleiades I'm pointing to now. And Taurus is known as the alpha sign of the zodiac. The letter A is derived from the hieroglyph of the bull's head. And there's a better close-up. So there's the bull, and there's the Pleiades. Now the sign of Taurus rules the throat, and the Pleiades signify the Alta Major chakra located at the back of the neck, but with its anchor point in the body being in the medulla oblongata, directly above the throat. That's the medulla oblongata I'm pointing to now, just above the throat. The Alta Major chakra is the chakra of divine intelligence, also known as the Pan chakra, via which the spiritual breath or Holy Spirit enters the body, inspiring the heart with wisdom. The wisdom is then heard inwardly in the throat as the intuition, and spoken outwardly via the throat with the physical breath. So in this way, it is the bull and Europa who sound the word of truth. The word of truth is represented by Mercury, the child of Europa and the bull. And the name Mercury from ancient Egyptian Mar-Keru means true word, or word of truth. And let's look at the British Isles. The British Isles is composed of 3 lands, Scotland, Ireland, and Britain. And each land has its own landscape zodiac, the geomantic centers of which are the sacred centers of myth. The geomantic centers of Ireland and Britain also mark the approximate geographic centers of their lands, but not the Scottish one. In fact, if you want to know the Scottish geographic centre rather than geomantic centre, the geographic centre of Scotland is marked by the mountain of Schiehallion. Now, the 3 geomantic centres of the 3 lands form between them an equilateral triangle, thereby making a holy trinity. So the 3 lands manifest what is known as the triple goddess. And she corresponds in myth to the 3 sisters of the Pleiades or Hesperides. So as far as I can ascertain, Ireland is the maiden, Britain is the mother, and Scotland is the crone or wise woman. Now these 3 can also be understood as symbolizing the first 3 Sephiroth of the Kabbalistic tree of life. So at number 1, Scotland is Scotland, and that's power. Number 2 is Ireland, which is the wisdom. Number 3 is Britain, which is the intelligence. And Britain, the mother, as divine intelligence, conceives and gives form to the wisdom as an idea, so as to understand the wisdom and enable it to be born, to be put into action. And this is very much Britain's role, which is why the British, or the English in particular, are considered to be rather intellectual, sometimes in good ways and sometimes not. Now, the goddess of Britain is Britannia. Britannia is another name for Pallas Athena, goddess of illumined intelligence. And the mythological story of Athena's birth tells us that Athena is the daughter of Metis, the goddess of intelligence and deep thought. And Zeus, Athena's father, swallowed Metis, who is pregnant with Athena. When Athena was born within him, Zeus developed an intense headache, so he asked Hephaestus, god of the underworld, to cut his head open. As Hephaestus did this with his axe, out sprung Athena with a great shout, fully grown and shaking her spear. Now, the spear is representative of Athena herself. The spear or trident symbolizes the raised kundalini, raised from root to crown via wise, intelligent love in action. This kundalini bursts through the crown of the head and produces tongues of fire. And this produces illumination. And illumination is knowledge of truth, truth being the wisdom. To know the wisdom means that the goddess can inspire others with the wisdom that she knows. Hence, she is referred to as the goddess of wisdom. And as the 10th muse, the muse of muses, her role is to inspire with wisdom and knowledge all the artists and scientists involved with creating and developing the arts and sciences. Athena, or Britannia, is the goddess of Britain, which means that the particular role of all of us who live in Britain is to be open to her inspiration and to become inspired artists and scientists who are in turn able to inspire others throughout the world. That's as I see it anyway. Now, if we look at the British landscape zodiac, the British landscape zodiac is an archetypal energy pattern that underlies the landscape of Britain. It is a pattern that appears to have been originally recognized and laid out by the Brythonic-speaking Celts, and which the Romans and subsequent rulers and wisdom holders seem to have recognized and used right up to the time of the Tudors and Jacobeans, and even into the 18th century, I found. This archetypal pattern is that of the zodiac or wheel of life, divided into various geometric patterns, such as the 12 equal sections or signs, which I'm showing you now. And the equal sign arrangement ties in with the overall geometry of the 3 lands of the British Isles, Scotland, Ireland, and Britain. Each land is unique in its own way, as also the people living within each land, because each has its own landscape zodiac, and the land affects the people who live in it. The centers of the 3 zodiacs form between them an equilateral triangle whose sides equate with certain radii of each zodiac. Now, the division into 12 unequal signs was also used, with the width of each sign or section approximately matching the width of its zodiacal constellation. This unequal sign division, and thus the deliberate creation of constellations of different widths when the pattern was projected onto the sky, appears to have been for the purposes of marrying 12-fold geometry with 10-fold geometry. And this is because a division of the zodiac into 10 sections was also used. By section, I mean sector. The 10-fold division gives the idea of the rose, with its 5 petals. 5 times 2 is 10. Whilst the 12-fold division gives the idea of the cross, as well as the 6-pointed Christ star or Star of David. And the fusion of the two is symbolized by the rose and cross symbol of the Rosicrucians. In my essay published on the Zones website, I explain how the 10-fold division appears to have been devised and harmonized with the 12-fold division, resulting in the 12-fold unequal signs of the British landscape zodiac. And this unequal sign British landscape zodiac not only marries the 2 geometric patterns, 10-fold and 12-fold, by mixing them together, with some signs equal and some unequal, but it is also in harmony with the actual landscape of Britain and its underlying geology. It is this 12-fold unequal sign British landscape zodiac that appears to have been used by the Celts and later cultures. This is because the landscape, together with the underlying energy structure of the zodiac, has had such a powerful effect upon the people of the land and continues to do so, even though most people are not aware of it. Now, we in Gatekeeper Trust are again using it artistically for beneficial reasons with knowledge and love. Now, the science and art of Gatekeeper Trust and all gatekeepers is to love the land as well as each other and energize the land with love. If we can do this in certain key ways, artistically, we can make the energies of the energy wheel that is the British zodiac turn faster and shine with light, bringing delight, happiness, joy to everyone. And this is because light is delight, which is actually what the Hebrew word in Genesis chapter 1 means. The delight that was created on the first day of creation as a result of loving and expressing that love. When we are delighted, happy, we shine. And this delight or happiness can be spread to others, as well as to the landscape and its nature. Everything and everyone loves to be happy, delighted. It wakes things up. It energizes things and people in good ways. And this is the great secret. Be happy and help make others and the environment happy. Everyone and everything will then be full of life and shine. Now, pilgrimage is an art, as also is poetry, music, song, dance, theatre, and works of art of all kinds that help to beautify the environment in meaningful ways and bring joy to people. Meaningful ways include celebrating the great festivals of the year, the lunar festivals, such as those of the full moon, and the solar festivals, the solstices, equinoxes, and quarter days, as they used to be called. These festival celebrations are to do with right timing, but time goes in harmony with place. So doing the right thing in the right place at the right time is also important if we want to be artists. And hence the importance of knowing the landscape zodiac and the smaller zodiacs or chakras and landscape temples within the larger one. All this is a science. So in this way, we become inspired artist scientists, doing the right thing in the right place at the right time and with the right orientation or intention. Now, in terms of how Britain, the British Isles, and the continent of Europe relate to the world in terms of their roles, can be seen in terms of chakras, planetary chakras. Many years ago, and after many previous years of researching and visiting many countries of the world, I was given a vision of what is traditionally known as the world egg. This symbolic representation of the world, as also of the universe, can be found in both the Druidic and Orphic traditions. The world is described as an egg surrounded by a great serpent that is its divine parent. The serpent is incubating the egg so that the fetus inside can grow, develop, and then hatch out of its shell and be born as a baby serpent, who then grows wings and flies. The serpents are also known as dragons, royal dragons, such as in Chinese mythology. Now, in my vision, I was shown that the parent serpent was wrapped around the world egg 3.5 times. And I was later informed that likewise, the Kundalini is wrapped 3.5 times around the Shiva Lingam in the Muladhara or root chakra. I was also shown in the vision that the great parent serpent imprinted its own chakras upon the surface of the world. When I transposed this vision to a map, everything I had previously researched suddenly made sense, and the planetary chakras appear as in this map diagram. Moreover, when I was told about the Kundalini and the root chakra, I realized that the parent serpent dragon flowed like the goddess Kundalini through these planetary chakras. And one of the confirmations of this being correct is that the main axis of the celestial zodiac, which stretches from the cusp of Gemini Taurus to the cusp of Sagittarius Scorpio, corresponds to what the African Sanusi referred to as the Nilotic Meridian of Africa, a north-south meridian along which the River Nile winds its path and on which the Great Pyramid of Giza is placed as a marker. I'm pointing to it now. Along this meridian, according to the Sanusi, flows a great underground river called Lulangwa Mangakaska, which means River of Stars, which is said to hold the continent of Africa together and is associated in some mysterious way with the Milky Way. Well, in the sky, the two cusps are the points on the ecliptic where the meridian of the Milky Way crosses the ecliptic. So this dotted line I'm pointing to now is the meridian of the Milky Way, and it crosses the ecliptic where these two red dots are. These two crossing points are the only fixed points on the ecliptic because stars are in constant movement. So these fixed points are taken as the markers for the main axis of the celestial zodiac. And the main axis also passes through the star Arcas, our present North Pole star, also known as Polaris. When the star Arcas is our North Pole star, it signifies the end of a great age and the beginning of a new one. And this is something that is happening right now. On Earth, the southern part of the terrestrial meridian is marked by Timbavati in South Africa, where the white lions are traditionally born in the wild. And this coincides with the Sagittarius Scorpio cusp. So I'm pointing to it now. The northern part of this meridian is marked by the Greco-Roman city of Selgi, founded on a mountaintop by the mythical prophet called Calchas of the Trojan War. So I'm pointing to that now. And this mountain is part of the Taurus Mountains of Antalya in what is now Turkey. So as you can see, mainland Europe, ruled by Taurus, is the planetary throat chakra. And the British Isles is the planetary outer major chakra that is also known as the Pan chakra, the chakra of universal consciousness and inspiration. Now, great age consists of 12 ages. Great age is approximately 26,000 years long, it's thought to be. And each age is ruled or symbolized by a sign of the zodiac. So each sign or sector of the zodiac is named after the constellation that lies on the ecliptic of that sign. Besides the star Arcas, the marker in the sky to tell when a great age ends and a new great age begins is when the midsummer sun is on the cusp of Gemini Taurus and about to move into Taurus, and the midwinter sun is on the cusp of Sagittarius Scorpio and about to move into Scorpio in the precessional cycle. And this move from one great age into a new great age is happening right now. So this means that Europe has an alpha role to play, to sound the word of truth that can usher in the new great age, and with the possibility that it can be better than before. The Atlantean myth, from which the Europa and Bull myth is derived, concerns the end of a great age, wherein each great age ends with fire and flood. An Atlas in the form of a bull rises out of the flood, bearing the Hesperides upon his great neck. They then, together, create the new. So there's a lot of work to do. There we are. So I'll end my talk there. Thank you. I think we have a little bit of time if you want to ask questions.
Thank you, Peter. Can't see that we've had any questions on the chat box yet.
Now, give it a little time for that talk to sink in.
Yeah. Well, can I just go back to one or two things that you mentioned during your talk, if that's okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
One of the things I did omit to say as part of my introduction about sort of gatekeeper discipline, if you like. You know, we're talking about asking permission and dedicate our activities. One of the things that we need to bear in mind at all times, it's worth reinforcing, is we do the right thing at the right time, in the right place, with the right intention.
Yes, that's exactly right.
I think it's worth repeating that, you know, as a sort of foundation of our work, basically, as we all go out together tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's a good axiom to remember, you know.
Yeah.
Learn it by heart.
I was also intrigued.
In the right place at the right time with the right orientation or intention.
Yeah, yeah. I was also intrigued by your comment that the British landscape Zodiac, with its early Brythonic origins, even now is working, as you said, down to the 18th century that you've recently found. I've not heard that before at all.
Yes, I found.
Say something like that.
Yeah, I found evidence of that, and it's finding all these clues in both the history and the records, the mythology, and so on. Everything possible, and also, of course, visiting the places. Because only if you go to the places you hear the local histories from the people who've lived there for a long time. And but anyway, by putting all this together, it's I mean, I've found many zodiacs throughout the world, well, the places I've visited and so on. But you know, to be able to talk about them and use them really well, you need to have some sort of evidence that people before have used them. You know, it gives some historical veracity to it. That's not to say there aren't new landscape zodiacs that are not recorded and haven't been used before, which we can find out now and use again now. But ones I tend to use, or at least talk about, are the ones that have been used before and are proved very useful and good and have gone on for millennia because of that. And they're still very valid.
Yeah, yeah. I've actually found my way into the Q&A section of the of the Zoom screen rather than just the chat box. We could be here for another 5 or 10 minutes yet. Just hold on. Okay. from Katrina Dixon, 2 questions. How can we align being artistic, brackets literally arts creators, with landscape enchanters?
Oh, well, it's even to go into the landscape and you know, in the right way, to walk in the right way in the landscape, and which is caringly, really, and appreciating, just appreciate that. That's an artistic thing to do straight away, because we'll find we'll walk and we'll gesture and so on, and inappropriately in the landscape, we'll find the sense of it responding to us in this way, if we appreciate the environment that we're in and love it, you know, respect it and so on. And that itself just is a work of art. We all can be living works of art. And when you take it into proper pilgrimage, not just sort of tourism and so on, but proper pilgrimage where you're walking in a sacred way, a special way, and very aware of the inner world as well as the outer world, and loving it, then that's an art. It's an art is a work. It's a work, but it's a work done well. That's the description of a work of art. Something that is done very well, and turns out to be brilliant.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Just a follow-up question from Katrina, and this could be a huge, great rabbit hole opening up here. But she asks, is now a time ripe for another Shakespearean enterprise?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Well,
we could have another weekend on that, perhaps.
You could say that, you know, we're actors on the stage of the world. That's very Shakespearean.
Okay. So any time is right from the Shakespearean enterprise then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bob Dickinson, living in Lincoln, its location, I think, is on one of the cusps, isn't it?
Yeah.
And how that relates to the British Zodiac. So have you any comment on that, or is it just?
No, it's very important. I mean, Lincoln, you know, it's on that particular radius that's lined with the Fosse Way, and then it goes down as you go into the Stratford area, goes through High Cross and down to the Stratford area, and then it bends slightly and goes down towards Bath and so on. But along that whole meridian, you know, virtually all the great myths of this country. You know, it's extraordinary. Why should they be on that Fosse Way meridian? These great myths. The other great myth, one great myth of Britain, is about the Head of Bran, and that's to do with the Watling Street. So you got these 2 great roads that were originally Celtic, Fosse Way and Watling Street, actually carrying the great myths of this country, of Britain. No other place does the same. So, and Lincoln's very important in this. Yeah. You know, that's why you know, Robin Hood and his fellow men, they all wore Lincoln green, because it's to do with Virgo. And
yeah, you mentioned Watling Street crossing the Fosse Way at High Cross, and that, of course, is where Sarah's holding the centre.
Yes, that's right.
Do you want to say anything about that? Yeah,
she'll be there tomorrow. That's the ancient centre of Britain, geomantic centre of Britain, as recognised by the ancient Celts and then later the Romans and so on, and people after that. And it's on a wonderful hill. You know, it's got houses and trees on it now, but at one time you would have had a 360-degree view all around for miles and miles in the distance. So it makes a great heart center.
Yeah. We'll take a couple more questions, and then we'll have to move on, I think, just to keep to some sort of timetable this afternoon. Bob Dickinson again asks, how do previously discovered terrestrial zodiacs relate to the British zodiac?
Well, I don't know if I can answer that in just very quickly. It depends on the pattern they make together. I'm not quite sure what he means by that.
I think perhaps how does, for example, the Glastonbury zodiac that's been well researched by Anthony Thorpe and others.
Oh, I see. Yeah. They're wonderful zodiacs, but they are smaller zodiacs within the Greater British Zodiac, and the Glastonbury one has a particular position in the Big British Zodiac that tells you the role that it's there to play. Yeah. It's a role. It's a role playing. Like actors in the theatre. You play your part in the appropriate part of the stage for that part to be played, and then you'll move somewhere else when you have to do something different, and so on like that. So the zodiac in the ancient days was the big ones and the small ones were useful to people to know what to do, when and where.
Yeah. I'll ask one final question if I can, and maybe tie two together. There's a question here about the significance of the white lions, but also, can you say a bit more about Africa's role in the imminent new age? Is that possible? Or again, is that another weekend?
That's probably another weekend, but very, very quickly about where the white lions are born, a place called Timbavati. It's a protected zone, and I've been there, and that is traditionally where the white lions are born in the wild. And when white lions are born, it is said a golden age is about to begin. So they are the precursors of a golden age. So there's a great celebration when some white lions were born there not so long ago. But there are other white lions who are born, but they're not in the wild. They've been carefully bred in captivity. But the wild ones are born there, and traditionally born there in the wild, in Timbavati. And that's what the African Sanusi, that's the wise people of Africa, the Sanusi, they have that story, that it's a signal to them when the white lions appear like that.
Okay, thank you for that. There are a few more questions. What we'll try and we've been asked questions about, for example, places to go tomorrow. What we can try and do later on is respond to those separately by direct message and not deal with them now, but there are a few questions that we can pick up on. Right, thank you so much, Peter. That's been really interesting, enlightening, and really good setting the scene for tomorrow. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you.
Okay.